Howdy Spacers, and welcome back to Blank Space Dolls. It's time to clown around in an awesome mini collaboration with 3 amazing doll artists on Instagram. Be sure to check the links below to see what carnival creations they came up with. But now it's time to enter the funhouse and check out the inspiration for mine. So collect your tickets and let's grab a front row seat to the show. For my carnival creation, I got a lot of inspiration from pastel clown inspired makeup looks on Pinterest, multicolored hair, high fashion images, showcasing dramatic collars and sculpted hair. I really wanted to have fun playing with the colors in this creation. And be sure that you guys tap that subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss any of my future projects. And with that being said, let's get started on the custom. For this custom, I decided to use a Gigi Grant as my base doll because I love Gigi's sweet face mold and her large eyes, but I also thought that using a pink skin tone would be a nice change for my channel since I tend to use a lot of natural skin tones. And of course, you're going to go in with 100% acetone and remove that factory paint from the face and head. Soon enough, you have a blank canvas to begin customizing. For the reroute this time, I'm actually going to be using this Caran Simply Soft in Baby Brights, and I start by just separating those colors out. And I actually used this hair on a previous custom late last year where I mixed textures, beads, and braids to give it a fun texture, and also using this Daiso soft and fluffy yarn to add a little bit more texture and dimension to the hair as well. And then I'm going to go in and just begin painting a guideline for myself to follow in acrylic paints with matching colors. And looking back, I probably could have skipped this step because even though I did give myself a guideline to follow, I actually didn't reroute it in these exact color patterns. I kind of just started mixing them because I realized that I really did want a lot of the colors to show. So yeah, you can probably skip this step if I'm honest. Of course, I'm going to go in with my pet brush and begin to detangle that hair and just brushing it out from the tips. And then you end up with this fluffy little poof at the very front. And I do brush it out in sections because I find it's just easier for me to work with the hair that way. Here I'm showing what half of the hair looks like once it's styled, and I do go in and add these sequin spangles and that Daiso soft and fluffy yarn I mentioned earlier just to give the little space bun a little bit of volume and add a little bit of sparkle. Then you want to just style the other side of the hair the same way. Now moving on to the outfit. For this project, I really wanted to create one of those classic clown onesies that we see all the time. And to do that, I just begin by tracing around my mannequin doll's body just to make sure that I'm getting the length of everything correct. And you'll see I'm drawing lines where her wrists end, and also I'll do it by her ankles as well. And so once you finish tracing around the body, you're just kind of gonna give yourself a guideline, and I'm tracing out where her waist would be, and I'm just kind of drawing out the shape that I want for the onesie to have, making the legs a little bit wider. And I do have an idea for what I want to do to make sure that it has that classic poofy clown look later. But you can see here I'm actually extending it a little bit more because I want to make sure that I'm keeping enough space for the seam allowance so that way I don't lose any of that volume that I'm looking for. And once you're happy with the shape that you've drawn out, you're just going to go ahead and cut that out, and it's going to give you this nice little template that you can now transfer onto your fabric. I decided to use this light lavender fabric with the pastel rainbow print on it because I thought it would be so cute and just match my theme so well. And you're just going to cut that template out twice. And for the back side, you're just going to cut a split down the back so we can get our doll into it later. Then you just want to sew all of those edges together, making sure that you face them good side on the printed fabric. And then I use Fabri-Tac Glue to finish the hem at the wrist and the ankles. And then you'll see the split here that we left to get the doll inside, and you'll just turn that inside out. Now moving on to the collar, I'm actually just going to take this rectangular piece of fabric and fold it in half, and I decided to go with this like pink galaxy polka dot, and I'm going to finish that bottom hem with some lace. And I do use my ruler just to create even measurements because I'm going to be gathering this and I wanted to make sure that they were even. For added stability and a little extra detail, I did end up going over that hem with wire just to make sure that my ruffles stayed even and strong and kept the shape that I wanted them to stay in. And then I'm going to take my needle and thread and just do a gather stitch along the hem of that. And now it's my favorite, it's Faceup time! I'm so excited about this one because it was definitely something very different than what I normally do. I don't really do a lot of characters, so I thought that I would really go the extra mile and show a little bit more in depth of my Faceup method. And not just that, but also show a little bit more in real time. The clips are still sped up a little bit, but I did want to show it in a little bit slower than what I normally do, just so that way you guys can really see the color payoff that I get from my chalk pastel pencils and watercolor pencils. And of course I'm still going to have the colors pop up as I'm using them on the screen, just so that way if you are looking for those and want to reference back to them, they are showing up on the screen there. But of course I'm just going in and building that first layer of color, and this Faceup was actually a little bit different because I did actually put a lot more color in the first layer. So I started with really light pale colors, so my white and my lavender, but then I also come in that same layer and begin to darken my colors. Because I wanted to save some layers of Mr. Super Clear, but also I wanted to really give a natural gradient to all of the detailing in her face, so you will kind of see that in these clips as well. In that same layer, I'm going to go in with my Mungyo Soft Pastels in yellow and begin adding eyeshadow to my custom. And I've been asked many of times before what kind of brushes I use on my doll face-ups, and normally I do use Morphe makeup brushes, but I actually recently found this e.l.f. makeup brush, which was only $2 at Target, which I think is definitely a good deal, and it just goes to show you you don't need expensive product or expensive tools to get the same job done, and I love that this one is more affordable and it works so well, so I definitely recommend it. Then I'm going to go in with this Derwent watercolor pencil in Imperial Purple and just begin to deepen those colors closest to her eyes. And what this is going to do is just add a natural gradient, because like I said, I did want it to have a more detailed gradient than what I normally do, and I really wanted to show a lot more detail and make it look like the designs were popping off of her face and make them more three-dimensional, and I think adding this purple gradient to the bottom part just does exactly that. And I'm going to do it on both sides and also at the bottom portions of her eyes. Then we're going to go ahead and save our progress by sealing it with Mr. Super Clear Sealant. Before we go back in and just begin to deepen those colors a little bit more, you can already see that just in the first layer how much color payoff I got, so that means that I was able to seal it correctly. And then building up the color is going to be the key to any good custom. You just want to take your time and really sketch over those same lines multiple times to really get the color payoff that you want. And again, if you seal it correctly and use your watercolor pencils correctly, it will build up eventually. And then for the lip crease, I'm actually going to go in by wetting my watercolor pencil and using a small detail brush just to get that color in the lip lines a little bit deeper. Here's what she looks like after being sealed with Mr. Super Clear Sealant. It's in this layer that I begin to sketch in the iris portion of her eye, and I'm actually going in with this Derwent Inktense watercolor pencil in Iris Blue, which just seems like such a fitting color for an eye. And originally I wanted to do a darker ring around the eye, but I actually decided to fill the entire eye in with this blue color and then go in and add the details later. Then I'm going to go in with my General's Pastel Chalk Pencil in white just to begin to add a few highlight lines around the details on her face and also right above her upper lip. Although this may seem quite subtle and semi-unnecessary, it does add a little bit more detail to the doll's face and breathes a little bit more life into it. Then I darken the eyeliner and add pupils and go ahead and seal it one more time with Mr. Super Clear. Then it's time to add my classic eye shines, which are just a ring light reflection. And here she is after the final layer of Mr. Super Clear Sealant, and then we're just going to go ahead and remove her head wrap and see what the hair color looks like with the face. I've stated before, this is always my favorite part because you finally get to see what the face looks like with the hair color that you chose. And off camera I did create this like sculpted bang where I just pulled it up and then tied it into a bun and then pinned that straight into her head just to make sure that it had this like interesting cool three-dimensional poof. Before moving on to the clown hat to complete the top portion of her outfit, I'm actually just going to take this piece of paper and I'm going to sketch around a ribbon spool that I have just to give myself a perfect circle, and that's going to give me my template for the hat. And this is sketching paper, so it is a little bit thicker than like normal computer paper because I did want it to have a little bit of a thicker structure, and you're just going to cut that shape out. And then once that's done, you're going to cut a split down the side, and then that's going to kind of give you this way to create a cone, and you're just going to twist it around until it's the small cone shape that you need. And I did again want to go with a classic clown cone hat, and I thought that those were so cute. They kind of remind me of dunce hats, if I'm saying that word correctly. Then of course I'm just going to go in and cover that hat with the matching fabric to the onesie that we created earlier. And I did want to make sure that I showed that rainbow detail because I thought it was so cute, and you can see the seam up the back. And then I'm just going to add a little pom-pom to the top of that, and I thought this was so adorable. And then what I'm going to do is just pin that directly to her head and cover up that pin mark with more pom-poms because of course I can never help myself. I just need all of the details and all of the accessories to just be overloaded, and I actually decided to add 2 little pom-pom details to the hat. And of course, if you decide to recreate this on your own, you don't have to add as many pom-poms as I do. I just wanted to add as many colors as I could because I thought they were so cute, and it gave me a reason to use all of the colored pom-poms I had. Then once the hat is complete, we're going to go ahead and put her in her onesie, and I'm just going to pop her hands off and slide that onto her legs, which is again why we left that slit in the back of it. We wanted to make sure that we could get it over her hips later. And you do kind of have to wiggle her in and kind of bend her arms to get them into the onesie, but eventually they'll go on, and then you'll put her hands back on and it'll kind of hold everything together. And once you have the onesie on, I actually took this pillow fluff that I bought at a Hobby Lobby, and like I said earlier, I really wanted to make sure that it kept that clown shape, and I wanted it to be really poofy and soft, so I went ahead and stuffed the legs and the arms with that, just to give it a little bit more shape and make sure that you could see that wide leg and wide arm kind of puffy look that we were going for. Then of course, just going in and adding more pom-poms because more is more, right? And of course, I'm going to be securing those, just like on the hat, with my Fabri-Tac Glue. And that's just going to create a permanent bond between the pom-pom and the onesie we created. Then we can go ahead and attach the collar that we created earlier, and you can see here I left the needle and thread inserted so that way I could tighten it just depending on the size that I needed to fit around her neck. And once that's sewn on, I'm just going to go in and kind of add more embellishments because again, I have no self-control. I've said this in many videos and it's so true always, but I think all the small details really add to the custom and make it a little bit more fun. And I just added these little heart beads to the end of her braids on her sideburns, and then I'm going to add the same lace that I used around her neck to adorn her wrists and ankles. And off camera, I'm going to go in and add 3D lashes, which are typical of all of my customs. And these are actually the same ones that I used on Ashira, my tree fairy. Now we can finally begin to repaint the shoes. For these, I decided to go with this wedge sneaker, which I believe these belong to a Frankie Stein. I could be wrong, but I'm just assuming because it has the lightning bolt on the side and the bolts in the heel of the shoe, that's where it's from, but I could be wrong. And I decided to incorporate the pastel rainbow onto the shoes as well. And so here you'll see I'm starting with the pastel pink at the bottom, and then I'll go up to the lavender pastel purple at the top. And then I actually painted the shoelaces in the opposite pattern, starting with the pink at the top and ending with purple at the bottom. And I just think it added a colorful, fun detail to the shoe while still keeping it in theme. And then I'm just gonna go in and add 2 mismatched pom-poms to the toe of each shoe, and I think it just made it feel more clown-like and a little bit more fun and playful. And also pom-poms. End of statement. No clown would be complete without balloons, right? So I decided to take these foam balls and 3 printed fabrics that match my custom, and took this tape roll and traced out 3 perfect little circles on the matching fabrics, and that's actually going to become my fabric balloons, and of course fray check all of the ends of those. Then I take the foam ball and just stab them with the same wire that I used on her collar, and I'm just going to wrap those with the fabric circles that I cut out, and I'm just going to secure those with clear elastic bands just to hold them together. And once one band is securely in place, I actually go in with the second one just to finish and make sure that there's a tight fit on the balloon base. And then I just detail those with some ribbons using the fork bow method that I've shown in previous videos, which I'll leave in an iCard above. Then you're just going to use the same method for all 3 colors of fabric that you chose, and make sure to match the ribbon color to the fabric choice. And with that, we're finally done. Let's take a look at the final photos. I'm happy to present my carnival creation, Minty the Clown. I had so much fun creating this doll, and I think that the pastel rainbow was a perfect inspiration to create a clown off of, and I'm really happy with how all of the colors came together just to create a happy and vibrant custom. And I want to say a special thank you to Cassia's Dreamland for including me in this small collaboration, and be sure to check out the description box below to see how some of the other customs for this collaboration turned out, and feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know what your favorite part of this video was, or things that you like about my custom videos, or things you would like me to include in future videos. I really do enjoy reading all of the comments, and of course if you want to see sneak peeks and behind the scenes looks of projects to come, be sure to check me out on Instagram at @BlankSpaceDolls, where in my world there's always a blank space. Let's customize it together. Until next time, Spacers, see you soon.